I would always go there during lunch breaks and read under the personal development self-help for free because I couldn't afford to buy the books. Right? But then I saw this book, Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins. And I walked past it, Awaken the Giant Within. And I was like, the giant within, the giant, awaken the giant. I think a month or two later, I scraped together probably 200-300 rand, a lot of money for a 16, 17-year-old boy. It's a lot of money. It's all weekends income. I sacrifice that money. I buy that book. My gosh, it starts a journey.
Yeah. Welcome back to yet another episode of Suits and Stories. I am your host, Bohlale, and today we have an incredible individual that we will be speaking to. And I know you guys are going to gain a ton of gems just from this particular session. Who we have with us today is Vinesh Maharaj, who's a transformational sales and personal development coach and trainer. And I really was drawn to what Vinesh really speaks about in his content. I encourage you guys to follow him after this session. But I wanted to really introduce Vinesh to Suits and Stories today because we are really going to unpack some of who Vinesh is and also a little bit about his background and what he actually does on a day-to-day. And I know you guys are going to be encouraged just from your own personal development perspective. So Vinesh, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Bohlale, thank you very much. It's a great platform, a great opportunity. And I'm inspired by the work you're doing in the space you are. I think people need help. And the more thought leaders, content creators, free thinkers there are who could define a new path instead of repeating same old, and getting the same old result. If you want change, you want to get around great minds, and you're an example of that, and that's why we're here today.
Yes,
Thank you for having me.
Oh, only a pleasure, Vinesh. And I think as I've gotten to get to know you a little bit more prior to our interview, I think the one thing that really stood out to me just about your background and what you hold true to who you are and what you encourage people to become is really just unlocking yourself from limiting beliefs, right? And I think a big piece of that has really been based on your background, where you've been, where you're from, and who you are today, and how you've completely transformed what people would otherwise have thought would have been maybe your story. So I'd love for you to maybe just unpack a little bit about your background in terms of where you were raised, and what was that one thing that made you see more than what your environment suggested you would become?
Hey, that's an incredible place to start. The beginning is always quite emotional, you know. If you're as old as I am, you grew up in apartheid. Apartheid was a different time in the world.
Yeah.
And segregation, racial segregation. And that creates its own challenges and limitations in belief. I'll give you an example. Living in an RDP house gives you a small mind. You're only as big as your mind will let you be. How big can you be in a 2x2? So whether you're in Mkuku or you're in RDP or you're in a council house, it has its limitations. I was one of four. My mom and dad were lower middle class. All they did was work to try and feed the kids and keep the lights on. That was the model of reality they had, and they just kept doing that because that's all they knew. Were there opportunities for them? Probably not. Apartheid didn't allow them those. And I'm not here to bash apartheid. We all know its ills and evils, but we've moved on and transgressed. But what happened was that I noticed that my friends around me were either engaging in illegal, illicit activities such as drugs, gangsterism, and other things. Born and raised on the Cape Flats, it's the gangland hotspot. People die every single day. Rapes, murders, gang killings, violence every single day. So my peers, the people around me, were doing those things. But I looked over the road and I saw the haves. And these are the people who had big, beautiful homes and cars and lifestyle and travel and clothing. You know, I laugh and I tell a joke. I was 26 years old when I bought my first pair of Nikes.
Yeah.
26 years old. I've got friends whose kids are 1 month old and they get a new pair of Nike original. So it tells you.
In those tiny sizes,
Correct.
right?
And they pay $2,000 for them.
They don't even walk at that age. They're just kind of chilling. They're looking stylish.
Looking stylish, exactly. So I'm 26 years old and I'm getting economic freedom suddenly.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to these people who had everything. And I realized two very powerful things. Number one is that they had everything they had because they had a different mindset.
Yeah.
My mom and dad was working for wages. These folks are working for profit, they're business owners, or commission because they were in sales.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my gosh, we're doing the wrong thing. We're in the wrong vehicle. If you're in a skedonk, if you're in a skoro, you're only going to go 60 kilometers an hour no matter how much you press the accelerator.
Yeah, very true.
When you're driving an AMG or a M5 and you hit the accelerator, you can fly. So the vehicle you're in matters.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. The second thing was information. My mom and dad had the wrong information. They had the information of the previous generation, work hard, save and invest, and one day you'll be okay. And look around us, nobody's okay. So we had the wrong information, my parents. The people around me had the wrong information. Their heroes were drug dealers, gangsters, maybe street life, street culture. And they were looking for family and solace and freedom in that. And I knew that there had to be a better way.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to die or let the dreamer within me die, which is another story for another question
another day.
or another day.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love that, Vinesh. And you mentioned two things that are important for me. One of them is information. I do believe in this day and age, there are a lot of young people out there. Information is there, right? It's readily available all the time. But sometimes, depending on our environment, where we've been raised, what people have told us, that's shaped who we think we can be and the limits thereof. But when information is as easily accessible, firstly, why is it that there are people that, even in the same circumstances, will thrive? Because they dream bigger for themselves. They're getting the same information as the person next door. But then there's someone next door that just believes what it is they've been told and never has that kind of burning desire to want more. Even if as they look over the wall, their mindset is saying, that's not attainable for me. Whereas your mindset was saying, how did they do that? I want to get there.
You know, this raises a beautiful story, and I'll tell it as quickly as I can. Twin boys raised in the ghettos in the 80s. For those of you who don't know the ghettos in the 80s, it's a black neighborhood, the projects, sky-rise flats, apartments where people live cramped up in blocks of rows. And what do people do in the ghetto? They live on the social security grant, like the SASA equivalent. And these people typically didn't work, or if they worked very menial jobs, right? But I tell the story because there's this family of twins. The father was a drug dealer. And one weekend while out dealing drugs, he gets killed, he gets shot down. The mom then has to feed the kids and keep their lifestyle sustainable. But because she's a drug addict herself, she's forced into prostitution. So she goes out into the street, and then one weekend she's brutally raped and murdered. And these two boys are left as orphans. They're taken into the social security program, and they're about 2.5 years old at that time. They get put into foster care. And 20 plus years later, they get re-interviewed to see how has foster care helped them or not. The questions were exactly the same. And one of the questions was, how is it that you ended up here? And here's the pivot. One child took full advantage of the opportunities, went to med school, became a medical doctor, married up in life, lived in a leafy green suburb like Sandton, had a BM and a Merc in the garage, had 2 children in the playpen and 2 chickens in the pot, living the vida loca. His twin brother, 20-some years later, 1 block away from where mom and dad, in the projects, in the ghetto, a drug addict and a drug dealer. When asked, how is it you got here? The answer was strikingly similar. If you understood my past, you would understand my present. So 2 people can look at a glass half empty or half full based on your perspective. So if you're a negative thinker, if you're always seeing the limitations, it's because your mind has been programmed for limitation. But who's in control of your mind?
You are.
You are.
You are.
So are we willing to now change our programming to first act? So here's the first step, right, Bohlale? It's do you even have the level of awareness?
That's it.
If you don't, somebody has to point it out to you.
Yes.
And you've got to have an open enough mind to sit back and say, let me understand.
Yes.
Instead of being defensive and blocking off, because this is what we do as human beings.
Yeah.
So I hope that gives you some context.
No, completely. And I love what you've touched on, Vinesh, because that is the very core and essence of the question I was asking, that, you'll find two people, same background, same settings, same experiences, but depending on how they chose to view life themselves, what they chose to want for themselves, that ends up having a ripple effect in terms of life and the outcomes of life, right? And it's such a key concept that I try and teach to a lot of the professionals that are in corporate, trying to get into the kinds of roles that they're wanting to get into, because the first aspect of building a personal brand is self-awareness, right? It's important for you to know who you are, who you define yourself to be, right? In that, what are the limitations? What's holding you back? What are you seeing as your weaknesses? And once you see your weaknesses, what are you actively going to be doing to transform that, right? But also, once you know your strengths, how are you building on your strengths and building into what your career ends up being, right? So for me, it's such a pivotal aspect, the whole idea of self-awareness. And one of the questions I wanted to ask was self-awareness as a concept, or, the one twin that ends up in the projects and is only really basing where he is based on his past. Can he independently choose to be a lot more self-aware, or is there then space for, or does it come externally, right? Does it come from someone else? Does he need someone else to help him be self-aware, or can someone change independently their thought pattern?
I think it's difficult for most, and Shay, I would speak under correction here, but my perception and my experience, so I'm speaking from the market survey of one. From my experience and perspective, people are very often closed off to feedback. So I'm great, I'm okay, but they love holding on to the victim identity.
Yes.
Like, hey, if you knew my mom was a drug addict, my father was a drug dealer, my this, my that, I failed school, we lost our home, my kid died, my friend. So we can easily go to that victim mode.
Yes.
And we love living there. There's a wonderful fantasy island called Someday I'll get my degree, someday I'll lose weight, someday
Yes.
But they sit around and they justify being victims. Bohlale, I'm here because of this problem. How do you want me to be self-aware? Aren't you aware of my problems? So what you focus on grows. So they focus on, I'm the victim, instead of focusing, hey, who am I? Who do I want to be? What are the skills do I need so I can prosper in corporate? What are the relationships I need to foster and nurture? Who must I align with? Strategy, relationship, connection, so that we can take this business to the next level. And I think what happens to us human beings is, because we can easily stay in this victim mode, it is hard for most people to be self-reflective if you stay in victim mode. Often you need a clap from the outside.
Yeah.
Somebody says, hey, wena huka apa walala
Wake up.
wasala.
Yeah.
That's it. Wake up, brother, wake up. And then you go, like, hey, what happened? And then the journey starts for that person. Having said that, Auschwitz, World War II survivor, I forget his name right now. He's written an incredible book. He became a psychologist, psychiatrist, and he was just a kid when he went in there. And what he did was he observed the relationships between people, death, people, life, people, and other people in the camp, and people with the guards controlling the camp. And he's just sitting back and he's observing and he's listening and he's understanding. That guy had the look of death yesterday when he gave up the will to live. And he could call it, he's going to die tomorrow. Incredible. So he developed awareness outside of him. So there are people who can develop that acute awareness of how am I feeling, why am I feeling like that, what has triggered that behavior, what has triggered that response. And I think the $1 million question for that person is when, and this is where their life changes, when do I take responsibility for everything in my life?
Yeah.
If I'm fat, it's me.
Yes.
If I'm poor, it's me.
Yes.
If I'm unhealthy, it's me.
Yeah.
If I'm divorced, it's me. It's always me. So as soon as you stop focusing outward and you focus inward,
Yes.
now you can start the journey of self-awareness.
I love it. I love it. When did that journey for you, Vinesh, start? Right? So you told us a little bit about your background, being able to look over the wall and see how other people are living. At what point for you did the journey start? I'm sure it must have clicked at that point that there's some disparity between how others are living and how I'm living. But what did it take for you to become who you are today? And when did that journey almost start for you from a practical perspective?
Right. So I'm trying to condense a long story. I must have been 15 years old, and a friend of mine from the Haves, they had it all. I mean, I would go to his home and swim in his swimming pool. That was like a holiday at Sun City for me. You know?
I love it, yeah.
And it's just down the road.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I was like, life ain't fair.
Yeah.
God, what have you done?
Yes.
What have you done?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I realized, hey, I'm responsible, not him. He's given us all equal opportunity.
You knew that at 15?
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that at 15, we had the wrong information. Mom and dad definitely had the wrong information. I knew that hard work in the right vehicle would create success. I knew that at 15. I was telling my dad, you got to start a business, brother. We ain't going to make it with a job. I'm 15. I'm telling my 30-plus-year-old dad, and he's looking at me. He's thinking, "Snot gat lighty, wat weet jy?" You know. but I knew this at 15. And then
Interesting.
and then this friend of mine, after swimming with him, he says, "I'm going to macro." He's got a car. I've got XR2s, CA10 toes. I don't know what you call it here in Joburg. So he's got a car, and we get in his car and we drive to Macro, which is about 20 minutes from our home. And they're having a sale, and I think he buys 3 pairs of Nikes.
You went with him to Macro,
I went with him to Macro.
and
He
you
bought
saw him buy 3 pairs of
Nikes.
Nikes.
And I don't have Nikes. I have sand shoes, noname.com.
Yeah.
And the penny drops, hits me, boom. My brother, you got to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
This game
Yeah.
is rigged. How's it
Yeah.
rigged? It's rigged. It's a knowledge game. It's a knowledge game. What do I know? Who do I know? What must I know? Who must I know? It's a knowledge game. And then it's an action game. What must I do? What must I do? So at that moment, the penny dropped. And then fast forward to a year or two later, I'm working at a ShopRite Checkers, the kosher version. In Rondebosch East.
Yeah.
And there's a P&A outside our Checkers, and I would always go there during lunch breaks and read under the personal development self-help for free because I couldn't afford to buy the books. Right? But then I saw this book, Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins.
Yes.
And I walked past it, Awaken the Giant Within. And I was like, the giant within, the giant, awaken the giant. And I think a month or two later, I scraped together probably 200-300 rand, a lot of money for a 16, 17-year-old boy. It's a lot of money. It's all weekends income. I sacrifice that money. I buy that book. My gosh, it starts a journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
where does it end? I think people like us are always investing in our mindset, our knowledge, our habits, our communication, our health. So the journey never ends.
Oh, man. Guys, if there's anything, right, that you are taking from just this one thing that Vinesh has said is, I think all of us have that inner voice inside of us when we see things happening, when we see people having, right, the urge to want to become more, to want to become better. And so many of us dim that light based on the limiting beliefs, right? We tell ourselves a lot of stories around why we can't have it and why they are better and it's not for us, right? But the journey for self-development, and I always speak about this with you guys, is, reading is the biggest thing you can do for yourself. A lot of people will say, oh, but Bohlale, I don't have a mentor. I don't have someone, I don't have the network that you have. I can't learn from other people. I don't know people. Well, there are people that have given tools, tricks, have given you insights, and they're in books. They're sitting in books, reams and reams of books, right? And so much of that and so much of my own personal development has really started with just reading, like being inquisitive enough to say, how are other people doing it? What types of lives are other people living? What are the experiences of people that have been there before me that have now gone into massive, massive success? And how? How did they do it, right? And so I love that you mentioned that, because I think, we learn so much from reading books. We learn so much from especially personal development books that are there to really just help you understand yourself a bit more. And through that, I feel like self-awareness develops quite a lot, right? Because you ask yourself a lot of questions. They tell you, oh, but this is who you are. This is your potential. You ask yourself, but how come I don't think I have that potential? What is that about, right? So I love that you've said that. And I think, I used to be someone that just doesn't read a lot. I used to kind of have the intention, go to a store, pick a book, like, okay, I'm going to read this, and then get through like chapter 2, 3 and be like, oh, okay, not for me. And a year goes past and I just don't read anymore, right? Sure. But in 2021, I gave myself a goal, and I said to myself, Bohlale, you're actually going to start reading. And how are you going to do it? And it's because I heard of Robin, was it Robin Sharma? No, sorry. It was the book around atomic habits. So I'd heard a snippet. James Clear. I'd heard a snippet of it on YouTube at some stage on how to build certain habits and how to build on, you set a small habit and then you kind of build on it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start reading books, but you're going to read 30 minutes every morning. That's all you have between the time that you're dropping off the kids and starting work. 30 minutes every day, let's see. And I promise you, kid you not, every month read a full book.
Wow.
Every month.
Wow.
Finished a book. From someone that was just reading.
Non-reader to a book a month.
Yeah, to a book a month.
Incredible.
Most transformational year for me. So thank you for sharing that. One thing that I wanted to also just dig into, just with regards to what you've shared, you'll find that in corporate spaces, there are people that have been in the same job 10 years, 15 years, right? And when you ask them, why have you been doing this job for so long? You see that they haven't thought about it, because for them it's about, well, I've got a job. I'm earning a salary, and I get to go home and do what I need to do, right? Why are people comfortable being average? Why for some people does it take, being in hospital because you've just gone through the roof in terms of either mental health, or you've developed an illness, you've had a stroke, for you to almost wake up from the reality that you just have been existing and not living? What do you think that could be from a corporate setting?
Wow, that's loaded, man. There's so many possible answers running through my mind. And before I answer that, I just want to share with you, while you're talking about reading books, and reminded me of this quote, and I hope that our viewers are not peeved off at me, but there's a wonderful quote that says, poor people buy TVs and rich people build libraries. What are you building, my friends? What are you building? If your TV is bigger than your library, and your Netflix account is 24/7, and your YouTube is 24/7 watching music videos, then how are you gonna progress and prosper?
Yes.
So that is the one that comes to mind on books. And there was a second one also about books. Did you know the average CEO in the US reads a book a week?
Yeah.
Now, if smart people are doing that, why shouldn't we do what smart people do? So I hope the penny drops for you. I would recommend, if you're not reading yet, get James Clear from The Atomic Habits. I think it's a wonderful read.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great place to start to build the habit of reading. To come back to your question, when somebody's in corporate and they've been in a job for 10, 15 years, and you ask them why, and they have no real response, I think that some people just see work as a job, just a job. It's just a job. It's something I do for money, and I live outside of my job. But people don't realize that job occupies 1/3 of your life.
Yeah.
So my belief is you might as well make it meaningful, get value from what you do, be incredible at whatever you touch, that it turns to gold, so that your personal pride and product delivery, whether it's service product, whether it's a online or it's telephonically or it's admin based, whatever service you provide, be so good. There's a beautiful quote by Martin Luther King. He says, if it should fall your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music, like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that the host of heaven and earth will pause to say you lived a great street sweeper. So whatever your occupation, if you're sweeping streets, go for it. Be the world's best. If you're an admin person, be the world's best. If you're a musician, be the world's best. And yes, we can't start to be the world's best, but you can be the best at your desk.
Yeah, in what you do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then you can be the best in your office, Then you can be the best in your company at what you do. And guess what? People start paying attention because we pay attention to greatness. When Beyonce or Rihanna is at the Super Bowl shaking their bonbons, we're all paying attention, right? If it's Drake or it's Jay-Z, Kanye, whoever you're listening to, we pay attention to greatness.
Yeah.
When Muhammad Ali and Conor McGregor or whoever is boxing or fighting, we pay attention.
Yeah.
Politically, we pay attention to political parties because those guys are good at getting attention.
Yes.
So let your craft speak for you.
Yeah.
You know, there's a story. Young Poppy from Pretoria. She's newly married, and she goes, she are on a honeymoon. So she goes to Italy, and she sees a guy painting the sunset on the plaza.
Yeah.
And she walks up to him with her husband. She says to her hubby, "Do you know who that is?" And he says, "No, I don't." He says, "No, that's Mr. Picasso." "Oh, Picasso? Yeah, the painter. Oh, houses? No, art painter." Okay. She goes up to him and says, "Mr. Picasso, what an honor to meet you. Sir, would you be so kind? Would you just do a quick sketch of me on charcoal?" He says, "With pleasure." He pulls out the charcoal. In 30 seconds, she does a silhouette of her and says, "Young lady, do you like it?" She says, "I love it. Will you please autograph it?"
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, with pleasure." She's so, taken emotionally by meeting a mentor of hers. She thanks him. She walks away towards her husband, and he calls her back and says, "Young lady, you've forgotten something." She says, "No, I haven't." He says, "You have. You've forgotten to pay." Picasso says to her, "You've forgotten to pay." She says, "How much is it?" He says, $1 million.
That's right.
And she went, $1 million? That's more than my wedding, my honeymoon, my funeral, my house,
Everything.
And then he said to her, she said to him, "But it only took you 15 or 30 seconds. He says, "Yeah, it took me a lifetime to master the art to deliver it in 15 seconds. So if you want to be a surgeon with a scalpel, world's best surgeon, because I know if you had heart disease, you wouldn't want to go to the third best or the 12th best or the worst surgeon. You want the best, right?
Yes.
So if you want to become the best at what you do, you have to start investing in yourself like the world's best. So it starts in your mindset. Then from your mindset, it's got to be into your skills, and then you got to practice, and you got to deliver, and then you've got to over deliver, and then you got to over promise and over deliver. When customer care says it's going to take 24 hours, you say, "Sir, it usually takes 24 hours. I'm going to get it done for you the next hour."
Yes.
Now you become invaluable. You know how many Google reviews you get when you're that person?
Yes.
Do you know how many Hello Peter reviews you get? Like, "Oh, this girl is killing it."
Yes.
I'll tell you a quick story. I'm full of stories today. I was at my local Virgin Active Club the one year in Little Falls, and they have two grumpy receptionists weekdays.
Oh my gosh.
Grumpy. They hate themselves. They hate their jobs. They hate their lives. It's a job. It's a dead end job, right?
Yes.
But I'm going like, if you don't like it so much, make
Don't
way.
be here.
Give somebody else a chance. God has sent somebody who was dying for that job.
Yes.
I go there this weekend, and I'm met by this young lady with big, beautiful smile at 6 a.m. She lit up my morning.
Oh, man.
You know, you go to the gym in the morning, you're like, "I'm sleepy." And she's like, "Good morning, sir," and full of smiles.
you?
And,
Yeah.
"How are you? And welcome." And it's just you and I at the gym. It's too early. It's a public holiday. And she's chirpy. I say, "Thank you very much." I check in, I do my thing, I leave. The next day I come back, she's there again.
Yeah.
Same energy.
Yes.
I said, "Hey, where's your manager?"
Yes.
"So is something wrong?" She said, "No, nothing's wrong." They called the manager. I said, "Hey, this lady's incredible."
Yes.
So she said, "So hold on, pull out the app. Please give us a review."
Here's the review.
Bang, bang, bang. And I went like, this is what we live for.
Yes.
Greatness.
Yes.
So
yes.
don't die in a job, my friends.
Yes.
Put your heart in it. I went off topic, forgive me.
No, that's absolutely perfect. And you know exactly what you're saying resonates with me so much. Because when someone is doing their absolute best and trying to just be excellent at everything that they do, listen, they don't need to ask someone to give them a review, right? We voluntarily, like, "Where's your manager? This person is exceptional.
Yeah.
Make sure you're looking after this person," right?
Yeah.
And I love that because, you know, I think a lot of people have a mindset of, why should I give more if the organization's not giving to me? They have this mindset of, when I receive, then I'll start giving. When I feel valued, then I'll start giving. When I get a higher salary, then I'll start working as hard as they want me to. And I consistently say, in order for you to move up a level, right? From being a consultant to being a manager. Act like a manager.
Act, perform, and deliver like a manager, and
That's
you
it.
will be promoted.
Yes, act like the person you want to become, and that's who you end up becoming.
Correct.
Right? So I love that you've shared that.
Do you know, as you talk about this this person in that situation who is in a dead end job, I just want to remind that person, if you're watching this and you are stuck in your job, I want you to remember what broke and unemployed feels like. I think we forget.
Yeah.
I was broke and unemployed.
Yes.
I couldn't rub $5 together. I was that down and out.
Yes.
I'd lost everything and I had to rebuild from nothing. You have a handful of friends, 1 or 2 family members, and you have nothing, and you are desperate for an opportunity. At that moment, I would sell my soul for a job.
Yeah.
I'll clean the floors. I'll come early. I'll stay late. I'll work overtime. I'll work weekends, public holidays. I'll be here,
I'm
sir.
there. Yeah.
I'm committed.
Yeah.
The first year goes by. He's shining. The second year goes like, they don't pay me enough. You know, there's favoritism here. Only they get off on the weekends. Blah, blah, blah. So I think that people who are in those situations need to have an attitude adjustment and go, if I really am, and I know this may be counter your message to your people, but my message personally would be is, if you really hate your company and your boss so much, please leave.
Yeah. Definitely.
Or go work for yourself, or go find the perfect company that doesn't exist, because every company I went to have problems.
Definitely.
But it's the people who can grow within those problems who prosper in those positions. I've seen people who work incredible hours, who do incredible things, who resolve incredible problems, prosper. They get paid, they get promoted, their lives just go on in a beautiful way. But the negative people who complain, you know, like, the company's unfair, they don't pay me enough. There's a guy called Zig Ziglar in America.
Yes.
There's a lady who approaches him at a conference and says, Mr. Ziglar, I hate my job. Nobody there likes me. I feel stifled. There's no more growth opportunities. What should I do? She's downloading on him all the negativity of 15 years of employment. Mr. Ziglar says to her, young lady, may I ask you, does your company pay you to stay at home on public holidays? Yeah, they do. Oh, that's interesting. And tell me, do you get paid on the 25th every single month without fail, 12 months in a row, without you having to bat your eyelids? Yes, of course I get paid, Mr. Ziglar. And by the way, does your family enjoy medical aid paid for by your company? Oh, yes, of course I get medical aid. And young lady, may I ask you, do you get performance bonuses, reviews, and incentives ever so often? Yes, but of course we do. Ma'am. And then he breaks it down to her. The problem is not your company. The problem is you.
Is you.
Where's your gratitude?
Yeah.
An ungrateful person will never get promoted in my world.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm not the expert here, Bo. Bohlale, you're the expert here. So.
You're preaching exactly what I preach all the time. Exactly what I preach all the time. And I'm so, so grateful. Guys, you've heard it from someone different, right? I think a lot of times you're so used to seeing Bohlale and she says the same things over and over. But sometimes when you hear it from someone completely different, completely neutral, I have not told him what to say in this podcast, I promise. You understand it differently, right? And I love that you use analogies and stories and that kind of thing, because it really does bring it to life. That, you know, if you're stuck in your current role, what does that say about you? And I think a lot of people, when you ask them that, they take offense to it, to say, no, I'm brilliant. I've got what it takes. I've got the skills. I've been there for a long time. I've been serving. But what people don't realize a lot of times is that, you know, when you embody the energy of someone that is ungrateful, unhappy about circumstances, complaining all the time, no one wants to promote someone like that. Right?
Yep.
The energy that you embody, the energy that you take with you, whether you're going for an interview, whether you're working your regular job on a day-to-day basis, the people are noticed based on the energy they carry, based on the mindset that they have around their role, around, you know, the people that they work with. And that's how you succeed in life. In anything that you're doing, whether you're in a corporate job, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're trying to build relationships, embody the energy of the person that you want to see yourself becoming. And I promise you, people will be drawn to you completely. So, Vinesh, Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think so many gems. You've really just hit on so many of the points that I love sharing on my podcast and on my platform. And I'm truly, truly grateful for your contribution to the session today. So much more I wanted to know and get to know about you. But I think, having spoken about books and the importance of reading, would really love to kind of wrap up our interview and our session with you telling us a little bit more about your book, right? So you've got a book, Kick Average in the Teeth, and just to encourage the readers to also just go out, get a copy of your book so that they can learn and develop.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I should have brought a copy today for you. That's okay. That is very average of me. Forgive me up front. I'll beat myself up at home when I get, take a book from Bohlale. Kick Average in the Teeth was born out of the idea that everybody settles for mediocrity.
Yes.
And it may be in your health, it may be in your weight, it may be in your relationship, maybe in your bank balance, maybe the car you drive. It may be how dirty or clean your car is right now.
Yeah.
People settle. And I believe that when you have greatness and you have the potential of greatness within you, why would you settle? Why would Muhammad Ali settle and not be the world's number one heavyweight fighter of the century? Why would Beyonce not be the number one selling artist in her genre? Why would anybody settle for less than their best? And there is no answer for that. But I think that we become complacent as human beings because, it's easy to be second, third, or last. But my philosophy is that if you third, it's as good as last. Because who's the world's fastest man? Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, yeah.
Who came second at the Olympics?
I don't know.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So, my friends, the book is really written with the idea that you are meant to be exceptional. You have greatness within you. You have unlimited amounts of possibility if you are willing to tap into your potential.
Yeah.
You're your greatest diamond mine. Right now in your feet is gold, diamonds, and platinum. You don't need to go start a mine in Limpopo to get wealthy. You can mine the space between your ears. You can fill it with knowledge. You can fill it with inspiration, with work ethic, courage, conviction, and commitment to go and do great things. So this book was written really to reach out to our people to say, you're worth more, you deserve more. This is how you can get more.
Yeah.
Change your mindset, enhance your skill set, build the habits for success, and watch. Like a farmer, if he throws carrot seeds, you're not going to get tomatoes tomorrow. You're going to get carrots. So whatever you sow, you reap.
Yeah.
So the first place to sow is your mindset. What is your morning routine? What are you reading? What are you feeding this thing? Because we've got the Samsung S24, we've got the iPhone 15, 16, 17, you name it, they got it. But the world's greatest supercomputer that serves you is the space between your ears.
Yeah, it's your mind.
Fill that thing so that you can be great. Now, I tell the story about, imagine you go on a date with an average-looking guy, takes you to an average restaurant, you have an average coffee, dessert, average service, average decor, average. Then you go watch an average movie written by an average writer, an average producer, average actors. How are you going to have an epic marriage or an epic life with such average mediocrity? It's not possible. So, Steve Jobs says Bob Marley said it originally, everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm saying you can die to live another day. You can die getting the skills, the mindset, the work ethic, so that you can have the six-pack, have the six-figure bank account, have the dream marriage, have an incredible home and family, have a prosperous business. But you have to make a decision. And the decision I'm challenging you today is, number one, get a copy of Kick Average in the Teeth. You can get it on my website, vineshmaharaj.com. And the second decision I want you to make is read the book and finish it. There are just 41 chapters. They're written exactly the way I speak. We'll personalize it for you and send you a little note, and make a decision today that you refuse to be average. The reason why the bottom is full is because everybody is happy to be average. Your rightful birthplace is right up there. You may be the CEO of your life, and this is the chance and the time for you to step up. Make the decision. Don't be average, man. You have Michael Jordan levels of potential. You have greatness. You have Elon Musk levels of thinking and product production. You have Steve Jobs' creativity. It's all within all of us.
Yeah.
unleash the giant within. Be incredible.
Yes. Vinesh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that ending. Guys, I know you've gained a lot of value from this. I think if there's anything to take away, don't be average. Do not settle for average in your life, because you do not have to be there, right? It's all a choice. You make a decision as to who it is you want to become, what skills you want to gain, who it is you want to leave as a legacy for everyone that's around you, the people that you touch along your journey as well. Make sure that you are liking, sharing, and commenting on this video. Make sure that you're spreading it, guys. A lot of people need to hear exactly the conversation we've had today with Vinesh Maharaj. Make sure that you're reading that book, right? Get yourself a copy. Kick average in the teeth. Up until our next episode, we'll see you then.